Okay, so when they came in, we had to sit down and have a conversation about, is Switzerland a suitable jurisdiction to run a cryptocurrency foundation? And the answer we came back is no, for two reasons. One, the Stiftung structure, the board members have personal liability, which means that no board member in their right mind is going to do anything risky because they have no indemnity for it. So let's say they go and invest in some deal. Instead of the foundation being sued, the board member can personally be sued on that deal if something goes south. That's not good from a
Mm.
corporate. Would you sign up for a business where anytime something goes wrong in a business, you could be personally liable for that? The whole reason we have a corporate veil is to protect the officers and directors of a company from liability. So that's the first reason. The second reason is the way that the regulators work in Switzerland is they're extremely conservative. So when you go to like ADGM in Abu Dhabi, and you talk to the Dahar there, and be like, oh, DLT Foundation, and there's bespoke people building dedicated stuff for cryptocurrency foundation, and they give you all these cool things you can do, like if you hold the asset, you can vote on the board or other stuff like that. But you can't do that in Switzerland. So what he said is, let's leave Switzerland. So we started the process to leave Switzerland, and then it got into a big fight with the Swiss members on the board. We tried to fire them. They rejected that. They tried to fire us as the minority of the board, ended up having a lawsuit, won the lawsuit over it. Then the Swiss regulator came in and appointed an administrator. And the administrator basically said, well, I just want to liquidate the whole board. And, you have two options. You can pick your replacements, or I can just put it into a receivership and shut it down. So we said, all right, well, can we at least have some influence over the people that come in? Yeah, but it has to be jointly agreed with the people that you just tried to fire.
Oh, wow.
So we put, the board in, but it was under distress. And the problem with this new foundation is the minute that happened, these new board members were always neutral to hostile with us. So every single person that they hired was, we have to protect the ecosystem from Charles Hoskinson. That became the mindset and the culture and the mentality of that organization. And we tried in earnest to work with them for years and years and years and years. And either they would commit to something and back out, like the ADA redemption stuff, or they would do duplicitous things, like when they took the lead on trying to set up the Linux Foundation deal for the pre-Intersect days. They hired this guy named Dirk, and they paid him god awful amount of money. And then his proposal came back and said, oh, well, you can create something at the Linux Foundation, but Charles Hoskinson can't join, and IO can't participate in the product and technical stuff. So the inventor of the protocol and the person who controls all the engineers can't be part of the product and technical committee about that. We want large companies with no connection to ADA to basically be in charge of the roadmap. And the foundation still wanted to do this. So we said, we have no desire to be part of that. And then they go around, tell everybody, oh, Charles blew up the deal. He can't work with the Linux Foundation. Even though we have now 3 projects, ScoreX, Dentis, and Compact, with the Linux Foundation through the LFDT. So apparently I can't work with them, but I'm working with them. And I've been working with them for 6 years. And then when we mentioned the board stuff, they say, oh, well, the IO consented to this board. It's not consensual if we're told that we don't consent to it, it gets shut down and turned over to the Swiss government for an arbitrarily long period of time. That's not consensual. That's a gun to your head to make a decision, and you're making the least worst option there. We were always clear. We wanted the foundation to be a members-based organization. We wanted the board of the foundation to be elected by the community, and we viewed the money of the foundation not as private property of some weird thing in the middle of nowhere, but property of the community as a whole. Okay, and when they say, can we renormalize relations? Like we were at Token 2049 and the foundation was there. And I say, well, what's it going to take to get you and a Fred in a room? And I said, it's very simple. Have community members be elected on the board at the Cardano Foundation. And Jack relayed the message. It's kind of like the messenger between the Soviet Union and the United States. He relays the message to the premier, and they say, oh, we can't do that. There's no path for the supervisory board to be under community oversight. So in other words, if they do something wrong, no one in Cardano will ever have any ability to fire the person who's done that wrong, regardless of how egregious it is, because there's no community oversight there for a community foundation that owns the trademark Cardano. This is my fundamental umbrage. It has nothing to do with whether they like us or hate us. And believe me, they do hate us. Okay. And they do everything in their power to really make our lives difficult. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the original intent of the structure, was to be the neutral place for the community. So we didn't complain about it. Emergo and IO got together and ironically even invited the foundation to be part of this. They refused to do so, created Intersect. And Intersect is now funded by the community, run by the community. The majority of the board is community elected, and it has the product function. Actually, the roadmap and the technical steering committee of the code is there. So it's mostly fixed. The only thing that sucks is the 600 million ADA is still trapped at the Cardano Foundation. So basically, Intersect has to be scrappy. It doesn't have this large endowment and the ability to invest heavy. But at the very least, people have a voice now. If you want to have influence over where Cardano goes and what Cardano does, you join Intersect and you participate there on the committees. And they wrote the Constitution, and they help write the product roadmap and the technical roadmap, and they control the GitHub repos for Cardano and these types of things. And it's made up of the community. There's a lot of people from all over the world that are there. People in Sri Lanka, people in Japan, and so forth.
So Intersect was effectively created to replace Cardano Foundation in a sense and be driven by the community.
Yeah, one of its primary roles. In Cardano Foundation, if they were a members-based organization, there would be no Intersect. But they're not. They're self-governed. They basically keep their own counsel. The board picks its replacements. They do something wrong, we can't punish them as a community. There's no oversight. And they do stuff, vanity stuff, but it's kind of like when Kim Jong Un builds a mall in North Korea or something. And it's like, okay, that's great. It's a nice little vanity thing you got there, but you know what? What happens when you do something wrong? Can I fire Kim Jong Un? No.